Blizzard presents Raven and Darren. Ready for match number 2. It's going to be Surrender and Flurry, and this again is a matchup of, yes, there are impacts here. Surrender can go for that #1 spot in his group, but also it's just an insane match. Surrender and Flurry, 2 huge streamers, 2 of the most well-known players in the Asia-Pacific scene, and Surrender especially, the world. And this is just an all-star match of Hearthstone coming up. Let's look at the deck list and see what we've got cooking, as Surrender is going to be on that Burgle Rogue. And this deck continues to impress me the more and more I watch it. It not only does the whole, created by, discovered, so on thing of making games go a little bit loopy and impressive. I think it also does that and is very solid as well. Just the cards in it are good. Vendetta can win games, and it still does the rogue tricks, and it has lackeys. So it's just impressing me that it can play standard Hearthstone very, very well, and then it can take games to really silly places and win games it shouldn't win in general terms.
And the fact that it can do silly things so consistently, which I think is a very good description of some of the stuff it does with Togwaggle, it's going to be its biggest asset coming up against Flurry, because while this is a very standard Burgle Rogue, taking a look at Flurry's Warrior, it is all but standard compared to the rest of the field. This is a Control Warrior, very rarely seen in Grandmasters as opposed to the Bomb Warrior. We've seen it a couple times. I think Shaxi brought it last week, and I remember Yala brought it one of the weeks in European Grandmasters. But the main reason why it is not brought, or at least so rarely represented when compared to its brother Bomb Warrior, is because of sideboarding, I believe. I think on ladder, this is a very, very valid deck to play. I'd say it's arguably better than Bomb Warrior when played on ladder, because against the average ladder deck, the removal and late game possibilities it has are so strong. But I would say when you start factoring in the extreme greed that 5 cards substituted in allows you in Specialist, it becomes a little bit more suspect.
Yeah, and there are a few key cards here just in this matchup. The Ironbeak Owl does, along with Execute, actually locks out a lot of those haha Van Cleef games that happen a little bit early on.
Yes, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, which is just a couple of nice tools there. But also, I think really for me, because of how much this is just Control Warrior, it's late game, it's just the game is revolved around removal, that it's really on Surrender, as is often the case when you're against Control Warrior. It's on the other player to make things happen and either present too many threats, or the threats are too well timed, or just dodge it, and then somehow the warrior doesn't have brawl one turn that it needs. It doesn't have this, doesn't have that. So I think the onus is really on the more aggressive player, which is almost always, if not always the case, against Bomb Warrior, is the other person.
I think against Control Warrior specifically.
Control Warrior.
Yes, sorry. Control Warrior, I definitely agree. Bomb Warrior can get a little bit more funky.
100%, yeah. Yes. I mean, the person that isn't the Control Warrior is always the aggressor.
I agree.
Yes, I got there in the end, I'm sorry.
I think the way that they present aggression is super interesting, because, I think rather than aggression, like, the beatdown is probably the better terminology for it, because the rogue has to win at some point. They have to deliver lethal to their opponent to be winning the game. The warrior doesn't. They can just rely on fatigue. I mean, they still have to deliver lethal, but it will probably be a concede more likely than actually lethal from Surrender if the warrior is winning the game. Surrender, however, does not have to turbo out his cards as quickly as he possibly can to do that. It's very possible we see him going for those kinds of ludicrous scenarios you were alluding to, where we see Shark into, 6 lackeys being made, into all those lackeys battle crying twice, discover Togwaggle scheme, shuffle Togwaggle. Like, you need to do stuff like that to be able to consistently beat a deck that has such a stupid amount of removal.
Yeah, and there's like weird things you can do with actually my favorite being the Leroy.
Yeah.
Where if you get scheme, you can shuffle Leroys in and draw them with Tog ones, and then just play 6 Leroys for 0 mana and just do, frankly, an obscene amount of damage. So there's a lot of ways Surrender can play this. Obviously, his hand and his opponent's decisions will have an impact, but knowing how to win, I think, is quite difficult with this rogue deck.
I agree. I think there's many different ways to play it. I think I would rate it slightly less difficult than Mage and Hunter, actually, specifically in terms of what your overall macro game plan should be. Because the thing is that by going for the late game value plan, or at least more of a tempered approach, usually just comes from the fact that you're playing out your cards on curve. Like, if you're playing Miscreant, unless you have a Shark in hand that you specifically want to save it for, that generally plays for both an aggressive route and a value route. at the same time because there's so much generation in Rogue. Whereas in Hunter, if you just play out all your cards, you run out of stuff very quickly. In Mage, if you play out all your cards, you can't do the combos. But for Surrender, he will still be having to make sure he's not playing too much into the warrior removal.
Right. Even an early Omega Assembly just shows that Flurry just wants answers.
That is a tough choice there, man.
Yeah, that was good.
If you go for Omega Assembly and you don't pick Ziliax, you're a happy boy.
And most of the time when you do get to pick Ziliax, you're pretty happy too.
Yes, exactly. If there's something better than Ziliax. I mean, it's kind of silly to be sad that you didn't pick the Ziliax because there's something better, but you want to have your cake and eat it there.
Already though, somehow, Flurry on the Control Warrior is like not winning, I would say, strictly.
He's off to
but
a
the fact he
great
has
start.
Minions that Surrender can't really easily deal with,
Yeah.
and Surrender doesn't have a way to prop this miscreant yet, is a little bit dicey. And although, you know, I talked about the Control Warrior is always the defensive one, there are situations where if you just keep playing minions out and your opponent doesn't, well, yes, you will kill them. That's just how the game works, and it can happen. It's just almost all the time it does not happen like that. Surrender going for the Snip Snap though, just a solid play, and again, kind of funny when Snip Snap got announced. I was like, whoa, you know, it's like really good. The echo on it, you can start just magnetizing it, make big minions. I would venture to say that we've seen Snip Snap on 3 more often than we've seen it do anything else. And it's not in a bad way either. It's just it's still a decent card.
Well, that's what makes it so ridiculously strong, is that you can do this. If it was forced to be a 9-mana card, it would be trash, or less good, at least.
No, there's only good or trash. There's no in between.
I mean, it's kind of true in Hearthstone. A card is either good enough to see play or it's not. Once again, for the implications for this game, Flurry out of contention. A win for him is just to get the prize money that comes with each win in Grandmasters, and for his self-respect as well, getting a decent standing. Surrender, however, if he wins, I believe he's very, very likely to finish first in the group and get that bye going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's a big deal when you consider playoffs is effectively what the seasonal championships were last year. Yes, the person who does well in playoffs will get a spot at the World Finals, and having to win one less match than everyone else in your division is pretty good. I would like to do that if I was in their position. So now, Shark just can't be played. He's just never worth the risk, especially with his hand. So what do you think Surrender's going to try and do it? Does he have to equip a Waggle Pick and start just using it to get ahead on board?
Okay, so you say Spirit of the Shark can't be played. Even if Dynamatic is in hand, it's a 50-50 as to whether it dies, right? With the 3 health commander on board.
It's just...
So what's the upside of Shark sticking? I would argue not high enough to justify that risk.
Yeah. And this is why I like this Waggle Pick. Surrender's got 2 in hand, and he needs a way to just clean the board out and say, okay, I can do other things. And most importantly, this sets up for Shark, Swing, Waggle Pick, and just Shadow Step it effectively, which means that, yeah, you spend the turn doing not a lot, but your next few turns are going to look a little bit spicier.
An underrated play, generally, I agree. It's kind of like with the old Quest Rogue decks, when you realize very quickly that Shadow Stepping Sonya was like the best thing you could do, even though it didn't have a Battle Cry effect, because 1-mana Sonya was just so busted.
Speaking of Shadow Step.
I was about to say good times, but kind of terrible times. I lost too many games to Quest Rogue.
I think Quest Rogue, if I'm just remembering all of the history of Hearthstone, I think Quest Rogue has led to both some of the most impressive games of Hearthstone I've ever seen, and some of the dumbest games of Hearthstone. You know, but it hits both ends of that scale. Like, I'll never forget Hoy in China. At the championships there, had a Quest Rogue game that was nutso, and he won a game of Hearthstone that I was just, my mind was boggled at how he managed it. He did it very impressively. But I've also seen Quest Rogue played by most other people, where they just go herpy derp and then bang dead, and that's just the game.
The biggest one for me was Muzzy when he won Copa America Tour Stop last year. I believe it was in the semi-finals. I can't remember who his opponent was in the semi-finals, but he 3-0'd Quest Rogue with his all-control lineup. It was he had like 3 20% matchups and he won it. It was the most incredible series I think I've ever seen a player play. However, this ain't Quest Rogue. This is just a somewhat slow opening for Burgle Rogue, Lackey Rogue, Shark Rogue, whatever you want to call it. Standard Rogue at the moment. But for Surrender, it's looking like he's got himself into what I would argue is a good position. It was unlikely that he fell behind on board early on against Control Warrior, but he did face the double one-drop opening, which is a little scary. And even though he's not miles ahead on board, I think given the context of his hand, he's probably feeling pretty happy.
Yes, he's definitely not too upset. I think it's mainly just the Shadow Step helping out with the rest of the turn, because he did get his weapon removed by the weapons project, which means he would have had to, if he didn't draw the Shadow Step, go, okay, maybe I have to equip the second Waggle pick and try again. So Surrender did manage to keep up here. He looks like he's going to be doing okay. I think so much of this game, at least as it stands right now, is coming down to the Shark. It can both be so much value, but also whiff if not played correctly, right? Like we've seen some Sharks that have not been played so well and have just been removed from the game with very little benefit. Yeah, and that's when games start to slip away. Because outside of the Shark, there is value in the terms of the lackeys here, but nothing that Warriors bothered about for a long time.
Things get weird now for Surrender, because this turn I imagine he was probably gearing up for a Shark plus Miscreant turn, but when there is a Acolyte of Pain on the board and it's going into specifically turn 6, triple Warpath for Flurry has become insane. Surrender can obviously counteract that to some extent with either Kobold Lackey or Goblin Lackey.
Or just swing. Could have swung into the Acolyte to reduce down
that's very true.
The draws.
Problem is here, if he goes for this, it makes it even easier for the board to be cleared with triple Warpath. But I guess just the fact that he's denying 2 draws is 100% worth it.
Also as well, Surrender, you know, you'll see the nod there. This is not like, oh my god, he had the Warpath. This is, okay.
I expected
He could have had the Warpath.
Yeah.
This is still good enough. And also look at Surrender's hand. Like, it's not like he's not going to refill.
Right, exactly.
So, obviously, Surrender would have liked him to not have Warpath that turn, but not the end of the world. He's not just, oh, lost the game now.
Yes. And Surrender would like a lot of things.
Yeah. The important part now is how Surrender follows up and how good these lackeys are. Mainly, I would say right now, the Ethereal Lackey is the one holding, or the Ethereal Lackeys, sorry, is the one holding all the power into how good the following turns are from Surrender. Pyro.
Bad Fireball or bad Fireball?
Pyro.
Yeah.
It is, I think, reasonably likely you will have a turn that you can just Pyro.
I think so too. I think with such a full hand, Mortal Strike was tempting.
But it never does 6, right? That's the problem.
I should have picked Revenge of the Wild, the Hound there as well.
Kind of give Echo to the Hound.
I guess.
Head crack. New artwork, still head crack though. That's one artwork I 100% have no problem with.
You like that change?
Well, because the reasoning behind it, I believe that Blizzard said, was the card art was quite dark.
Yeah.
So that it often looked just like a dark background with a little bit of red on it. So this is nice just because it's actual artwork that's more easily visible. Derek is literally almost out of his seat.
Dark in color.
Oh yeah, literally dark as in turn the lights off in the room dark.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, oh yeah, you can actually see more of an image here. I like it.
Surrender there was just
cracking heads.
I hate that pick of second head crack. I absolutely hate that.
Why?
He was presented with Eviscerate and Togwaggle's scheme. I think either one of those was miles better than second head crack.
Then infinite 4 damage a turn almost. It's better than Eviscerate, I think. I think it's definitely better than Eviscerate. Scheme, we can discuss.
Is it though?
It must be.
Just going 2 head cracks a turn. Like, head crack is never as good as you think it is against Warrior.
It's better than 1 Eviscerate, surely.
eviscerates removal, though. Like, fighting for board, I don't think that Surrender is in a position where he can just go something, double head crack, something, double head crack.
It gives him the leeway to be able to not have to always bounce the head crack.
But Scheme! Imagine Togwaggle.
Oh, no. We're not talking about Scheme. Because
Yeah,
Scheme
yeah.
I can be with you on. But I think it's definitely better than Eviscerate.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just underestimating how slow Control Warrior
But
is.
there's Pyro, there's Weapon, there's Head Crack. Look how much damage he has over a course of a few turns, and he's under zero pressure. Zero pressure.
You're bringing me round. You are bringing me round. Maybe I overreacted, right? Because Eviscerate, when I see it, I'm like,
it's good.
A+ card. Like it's one of the best cards in Hearthstone.
But
Maybe
it's
Head Crack was just better there. But Togwaggle's Scheme, man. He has Togwaggle in the deck. He has Leroy in the deck. Like anything shuffled into the deck is nutso.
Like I said, the Scheme, different kettle of fish, but the Head Crack, like I like it just because he has Pyro, Head Crack, now Lightning Bolt, and the Weapon, and Lackeys. Like that's just a lot of damage.
6 mana every turn.
But you don't have to do it every turn.
4
That's what I
damage.
mean, right?
Yeah, but like, well,
you can have.
If you're not doing it, then why pick it?
Well,
you can do it some of the
You can do it sometimes and still retain the damage. Like now, just one Head Crack. Sick.
Okay. I'm excited to see how it plays out because my instincts there were 100%. You'd never pick the second Head Crack. But we'll see. It could be nuts. It could be nuts.
I mean, if something's true, it is that we'll see because time progresses forwardly most of the times, and we're gonna find out what happens. That's just how it works.
Well, hopefully at the very least.
Imagine it just stops right before the big Head Crack. It's like, oh,
you're probably wondering how I ended up here.
Just like 8 hours of my inner monologue before time continues. Everyone's like, we just don't care about Head Crack anymore now.
Please God no.
At this moment in time, it would probably just be the Hearthstone expansion song on repeat.
Oh yeah. It's like in Inside Out. Like, do you ever wonder what's going on inside someone's head? There might be magic monsters.
Yeah, pretty close enough actually. Yeah.
Here, an interesting decision is presented to Flurry because I would argue, on average, taking the extra damage there to preserve more minions is the correct thing to do. On average. Surrender's hand is not an on-average hand. The amount of burst he has is a little bit silly.
It's not bad, is it? You can like Weapon, Head Crack, Vendetta, and sometimes something else as well.
Who needs water?
He's like, well,
Not me.
yeah, shit at water boy.
It's almost annoying as Stay Hydrated What. It's up there.
So many options.
I definitely like using the Vendetta now.
What's the rest of the mana being spent on?
Weapon, Vendetta, Head Crack. Yeah, I like this because Vendetta can't go face, and almost everything else in Surrender's hand really can go face. Like, look how much damage
It's actually
it is.
true, yeah. Pretty much. Oh, this is so much damage. Maybe double head crack was just the nuts. I don't know, dude. This is weird.
When I slowly but surely bring Derek around to my level of thinking.
I'm so easily persuadable.
Well, think about it. I'll sell it to you in a raw, logical way. I may well be wrong. Is Surrender wrong, Derek? Is
Possibly,
Surrender
yes.
and me wrong? That's just
Well,
just unlikely.
this is even more dangerous for me because I am very much I give too much credence to fallible players. I see them as, you know, Hearthstone gods, which they are, but that they cannot make mistakes because they're better at the game than me. Everyone makes mistakes. If you ask them in their interviews, you know, what have you done wrong over the course of Grandmasters, half the players would spend an hour talking about every mistake they've made along the way.
I'm looking forward to the day someone says nothing. Just to be like, oh, you think everything you did was flawless? Yeah, but you didn't qualify. I know.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, what?
I've had that situation. It's called interviewing Kalento.
Ah, okay. Reasonable. I think Kalento has been one of the most interesting people I've ever interviewed mainly at Worlds in Amsterdam that year, the year Tom won.
Did you manage to wring anything out of him?
Yeah, but the stuff he ended up making me look very stupid in front of everyone else.
He does,
and
yeah,
it was, but it was pretty funny. So I'll let him away. Let him get away with that one.
Oh,
Look at it, yes! Get him!
This is my kind of game.
You can even dagger up this turn, right?
He can dagger up this turn as well if he wants to.
Get him for 2!
I expect to see many smork claps in chat right now.
But look at his health! He's just dead next turn!
He's just dead.
He needs to play Zilliax.
He needs to play a taunt, yeah. Would he even survive then? Lightning
So he
Bolt,
can't Leroy.
Life Drinker.
So
Yeah, not quite.
Lightning.
If he'd taken Eviscerate, because he hasn't used more than one head crack in a turn so far,
That's all I hear, Derek.
I'm just saying.
I mean, that's a big taunt too, to be fair. 0-9 underpowered speed. I keep calling it underpowered steam, but I think I've called it that every time I've ever cast it in a game.
Oh, and it's unpowered. Not
Unpowered.
underpowered. I mean, you're not technically wrong.
No, that's why I keep calling it,
is
because it's
underpowered.
not like a stupid thing. It could be called that.
Yeah.
It's just a low-power steambot as opposed to an overpowered steambot.
Blizzard just low-key dunking on a card that they made.
Yeah.
Why did you create me? Shut up, underpowered steamboat.
But with double head crack, you might just get there over 2 turns.
With single Eviscerate, I think you'd get there on this turn. Or Waterboy coming in hot.
See, if Waterboy was 0 mana, that card would be good.
You are not incorrect.
If it was 1 mana, do you think it would be good?
Yes.
Playable?
Yes, 100%. Imagine turn 1, you go 1 mana, 2/1 dagger. That's nuts.
So
Yeah.
many
Yes.
options.
It's one of those problems, isn't it, with Hearthstone and low-cost cards? 1 mana is so much more of a difference.
Right, yeah,
From
yeah.
like 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 1 to
Little
2 is like
difference, yeah.
ridiculous. It's literally double the mana cost, right?
Yeah.
It's insane. Coming to a Hearthstone expansion near you, 1.5 mana crystals. Like, what?
Choose soon.
This is kind of overload.
Could this be the first head crack, double head crack turn?
Strictly better pick than Eviscerate. Oh, this is nice actually.
Yeah.
Wow, this was a really good turn.
Smart, very nice consideration there from Surrender, allowing the damage to come through to face.
So what? Flurry can heal for a maximum of what, 6 this turn?
No, he could heal for 7, right, if he goes for Devastator and then Zilliax.
Oh, yeah, you are right. You are right.
Which I think he probably will. The last thing that Surrender wanted to see here, healing back up to 15 means still no lethal, I believe, obviously, with... And I'm not saying that this exact scenario is what Surrender should have been afraid of with going for the second head crack, because you cannot perfectly prepare for every single scenario. I'm saying something like this is the reason to be afraid of going for double head crack, where your opponent has board and spending 6 mana each turn is just unfeasible. Vendetta helps drastically.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, Vendetta is just a good
yes,
card.
That's
right now.
that's insane. That's not lethal now, right? With Vendetta, Lightning Bolt.
So, wait.
No.
It's not. It can't be, right? Yeah, so just Life Drinker, what? Head crack?
Is ever just double head crack to get the damage in while you can? It can even be double head crack SI, right? Like,
Oh, that's a good point.
If
yeah.
he-
No, he needs to heal.
does he
needs to
need
heal,
to
right?
heal?
Well, because he
Probably needs
knows
to
his
heal.
opponent summoned some, or got some mechs in his hand. He doesn't want Magnetize to lose him, right?
So given that he still has lethal next turn, right? If he goes head crack here for the 2 damage, and then down to 9, Leroy SI hero power is lethal. Or I guess it works the same way with head crack next turn.
Yeah, and I think he would rather have the minion on the board to make Flurry react,
Yep.
right? As opposed
Yep,
to just
yep,
a
yep.
minion not on the board.
This is better. Because the game ends in the next 2 turns, one way or the other.
Oh, can't proc anything though.
What do you mean?
Oh wait, rush.
He can rush. Yeah, yeah. He can rush
So
it
he
with
heals it for
Beryllium Nullifier.
Oh.
Can he damage his own
That's
thing
what.
in any
Yeah,
way?
that's what I was looking at really.
I don't think so. Not with the 2 mana
So
left
I think
over off
he
the
can
Nullifier.
always press hero power, right?
Yes.
Which
Because
means
if he hits Ziliax, he just wins. Pretty much. Unless he.
or
he
just a
doesn't have
taunt
lethal.
mech, right?
8, 10. He's close to lethal as it currently stands. I think he's 2 off.
Yeah.
But yes, you start with this vicious Scrap Hound.
Hello.
It has to be the Scrap Hound, right? That's insane. Unless Snip Snap gives lethal.
It doesn't, right? The Beryllium's 4.
This
He said
is
he was
4.
2 off, but
Yes,
you can't
this is
triple
4.
cast Snip Snap.
If he had Snip Snap at the start of his turn, that would have been lethal. He can't reduce his mana at all.
So the problem with Scrap Hound is he can't attach Beryllium to it. So Scrap Hound's
You
only
just play
heal
them
for
both.
2.
You just play them both and sacrifice them both.
Yeah, game 4.
100%. 100%.
Surrender cannot believe it.
A 2 mana damage card would really help this situation, I believe.
Now,
I'm being a little facetious there.
it's not the word I would have used, Derek, but fine. Oh, lackeys. Anything can happen when lackeys are involved.
Start with head crack. Yep, yep, yep.
See, look, and now he still has a head crack, right?
Yes, okay. Let's see what can come off the lackey here. Obviously, no Vanish
Betrayal,
available anymore.
no.
Betrayal clears 4 damage off the board. He's still just dead, though, right?
I think the problem is we see the Beryllium Nullifier, don't we?
Well, if he goes for Betrayal on the Harrison, there's no more mechs in play. How much
that's
health is he
true,
actually on?
Surrender, quick, minimize the ball.
Because if he can survive with Betrayal,
And that's the thing.
then yes, that's very much a thing. Okay, he's alive at 1. That was so clutch. That was so clutch. As we can see, he's still not dead. He's still not dead.
He can play Dynomatic, right?
He can
Wait.
trade. Well, he might not want to
Are
trade
there any
first. Right?
draws that get him there? There aren't, right? In his deck? I don't think he has
there's a
anything in his
single
deck that
block
actually
first
makes a difference.
Yeah, it would have to be Assembly into Spring Rocket.
Or shield block for like a different way of winning the game.
Yeah.
Oh, well, speaking of which,
That's a fantastic
Yeah, that's a big
draw.
deal.
That is an absolutely
Surrender.
nutso draw.
throwing back his head, getting further and further, aggressively moving
15
now.
health.
He can't
so
believe it.
Leroy head crack. I mean, he doesn't even have a Vis in the deck, right? Oh no, he has one Eviscerate in the deck. Leroy head crack, Vis. Still not enough.
Okay then. Oh, I love that you.
Ethereal Lackey, Faceless Lackey can hit Bluegill Warrior, but I don't think
what
that
about-
gets there.
What about... the wolf does the same, never mind.
Yeah. Ooh! Togwaggle is the out. He
What
can
can he
go
get?
for... Can he go for Crown into Leroy? Well, I can't get King Crush, he's a rogue. What can he get off Wand? Is there anything at all?
Leroy's 12, not enough.
Ziliax?
Ziliax would help.
Spirit of the Shark into Life Drinker?
Wait, what?
But are there
Oh, you're what,
Off-
about
off the
wand?
wand, off
Oh,
the
right, I
wand,
thought you were
sorry.
about from Crown. I was like,
No,
you're just naming
sorry.
2 cards now, Derek.
Sorry, I meant Ziliax off
Okay,
the wand
yeah, yeah.
as opposed to Ziliax off the crown.
What about... Wait, does Golden... No.
He's going for the crown.
And shake of the head.
Ah,
Surrender.
So
He's gonna
close.
hold the L this game, and Flurry going to take game number 1 with the Warrior. And that game was weird. That
Very
got close for both sides quite often.
and I have to say that I think Surrender's choice there to transition over from what was an extremely value-heavy game plan into a damage game plan was wise. I liked his decision there to go face a lot of the time there because eventually he will just run out of value. When he sees
Yeah.
Doctor Boom, I think no matter how much he can generate, up to an extent, it's not enough. we could have seen him transition over with the Togwaggle scheme game plan, because if he'd gone Togwaggle scheme and had drawn into Togwaggle, that would have been an unrecognizable game, so completely different as opposed to the burn plan he went for. His choice to go for the aggressive plan and pick the second head crack, I think, was reasonable. I still hold by decision that either of the two options were better, but I suppose it couldn't have worked out much worse for him with Ziliax, Scrap Hound, Shield Block, all the armor gain. And
he kept
pods.
getting so close, but then just an extra bit of armor from a draw, from a whatever. But still, Flurry took game number 1, and there could be some room for these players to change around some of their cards in the decks with the secondary and tertiary deck. But while they decide, we're going to step away for just a second while we set that game up. Don't go anywhere. We're going to continue Flurry versus Surrender after this.
我的真实名字是叫吴宗昌，游戏的英文名叫 Blurture， 游戏的中文名叫陈太不要。然后目前有在那个Twitch开台。我在大师职业赛最希望遇到的应该是薛喜吧，因为我还没有跟他打过。然后最不想遇到的聪哥吧，因为感觉他还蛮厉害的。 最会成为我竞争对手的人应该是鼻子聪，因为他打牌失误蛮少的。成为炉石大师对我意义还蛮大的吧，因为大师全世界才48个，就是很顶尖的那个职业。炉石比赛最印象深刻的，应该就是大哥他那个去年世界冠军赛最后一场吧，他起手流石那一场。 我觉得大哥夺冠，他带给我蛮大炉石的动力吧，就带给我们台湾选手尽力，就有机会像他那样。
Hi, my name is 현재 Jang, and my Hearthstone nickname is Don. I'm streaming on Twitch. 처음 그랜드마스터가 되었을 때는 어느 정도 좀 하위 그룹은 면하고 싶다라는 생각도 하기는 했었는데 확실하게 제가 그 프로로서의 모습을 보여주고 싶기 때문에 저는 플레이오프까지는 좀 목표를 두고 있습니다. 제가 하스스톤을 하고 나서 가장 많이 바뀐 점 중에 하나가 부모님이 이 게임에 관심을 가지게 되고 관심을 가지게 되시고 또 아버지 같은 경우에는 방송에 관심을 가지게 되셨고 어머니 같은 경우에는 실제로 이 하스스톤을 직접 플레이하고 계신다는 점이 좀 하스스톤 하고 나서 많이 바뀐 점인 것 같습니다. 제가 방송을 하는 걸 이제 보는 걸 굉장히 관심을 가지고 계시고 아침에 이제 방송을 안 켰을 때 가끔 연락을 하시기도 합니다. 이제 2015년에 제가 처음으로 이제 우승을 하게 됐을 때 그때 한국에서 처음으로 1억이라는 상금을 획득하게 됐고 이제 그걸 기념하듯이 팬분들이 그 100K 원에 대해서 좀 그런 식으로 애칭으로 1던이라고 좀 불러줬던 그게 유래가 됐습니다.
We've got Surrender versus Flurry continuing right now, and it's going to be Rogue versus Warrior. Flurry taking a win there in a very strange game, or the game plan switching very quickly with Surrender there with the Rogue. But let's check out the deck list and what they have changed to or not in Flurry's case. But Surrender moves on to that secondary deck, and it's becoming a regular choice at this point in time. Coppertail Imposter, Wargear, and Cairn just being put in there instead of the Backstab, Sap, SI7 Agent, and Life Drinker seems, I think, overall successful game plan against Warrior.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting that we're having to put a distinction between anti-bomb warrior and anti-control warrior, because I think from Surrender overall, I like this sideboard because I think an aggressive approach with mechs is very strong against bomb warrior, where a mid-game game plan where they have less removal is very strong. If you make one giant mech, they struggle to kill it off if they don't have a huge amount of armor, which you usually get rid of anyway by attacking the mech into their face. Up against Control Warrior, however, I would personally favor the Togwaggle scheme style of sideboards, which some players have been going for, because I believe against Control Warrior, drawing through your deck is pretty much never bad. Against Bomb Warrior, drawing through your deck, draws those bombs. You have to be very careful lest you just die, as we saw from Tom60229 in one of his games up against Frosty. But I think that would help Surrender's chances here because Flurry has the Execute, Shield Slams, and Owls to be able to deal with those big nets. Overall, however, it's still going to help his chances.
It's still better, yeah.
Yes.
And Flurry is going to be sticking on his primary list, just straight up Control Warrior. And I think that's a good choice too. Just saying, look, I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to keep removing this stuff.
Hundo P. 100%.
Oh, sorry, I'm not down with the kids' cool talk.
Or a Hundy P. H Pizzle. Hup.
Okay, so anyway, before Derek gets more than just a broken arm in a minute, Surrender has a weird choice now because some of this mulligan looks okay if he was on coin, you know, especially just Van Cleef.
Yeah.
But is it just a little bit too slow, or can he have the liberty to go slowly because he is against Control Warrior? It's a little bit weird.
I don't know. Edwin gets really weird because that's an interesting dynamic you bring up is that, you know, generally, yes, you have more time against Control Warrior to get a big Edwin. The efficacy of a large Edwin is lowered drastically, however, against a Control Warrior because they have more removal. They have the Owls, the Executes, and 2 copies of Brawl, of course, to deal with a big Edwin. And so even though you are more likely to get a bigger one off because you have the time, it's less likely to be good. So it's such a weird dynamic that's struck with the Edwin there. Overall, I don't hate getting rid of it at all. There's cards you're looking for more so on the play, like Cocktail Imposter, like Blink Fox. This is a very decent starting hand for Surrender.
Yeah, drew the Edwin anyway, and has a Shadow Step to go along with it, so this could spiral out of control pretty quickly for Surrender. But Flurry has picked up another 1-drop that you can just throw down. I wouldn't even be too upset. Okay.
I think that's reasonable. I think in Bomb Warrior, even though this exact play has come up already this week, and I've said I preferred the Town Crier, that was in Bomb Warrior, where there are much more 3-drops that you are looking to hit. In Control Warrior, there's no Snip Snap, there's no Clockwork Goblins, there's no Augmented Elix. So the only proactive 3-drop you're looking to hit is Acolyte of Pain and arguably Shield Block, although that's to a lesser extent, I would say. So I think he's very, very likely to be able to go Town Crier Hero Power or Town Crier Weapons Project next turn. So I think it's on average just gaining him more armor.
Surrender working out whether he wants to Shadow Step this Blink Fox or whether he wants to swing the dagger. I'd imagine it's the dagger swing.
Probably. Like there's a pretty reasonable chance that this Blink Fox dies to either Weapons Project, obviously Shield Slam if he wanted to, or Coin Militia Commander more likely. But I don't think it's that bad for him. Like Shadow Step against Control Warrior has such a high ceiling of how strong it can be.
Yeah.
If you step Togwaggle, that makes you happy.
Yeah, even if you step a shark most of the time, it's just very, very powerful.
Right, exactly.
Surrender. Yes, execute my 3/3. I have a Van Cleef, and most importantly, the Inner Rage as well as 0 mana means that it's just 1 card +2/+2 on Van Cleef.
Surrender was going full Emperor Palpatine there, like, yes, good. Embrace your execute.
Now it's a fair point because depending on what comes down this turn, Surrender can make a huge mech and there's no execute anymore.
There is no execute anymore. And even if there were a shield slam, which there ain't, it would just be the armor total decimated completely with this war gear play. It's not, however, like Flurry is bereft completely of answers. Just Ziliak's magnetized onto the rover is really not bad at all as a roadblock.
Surrender does have choices now, though. He can just go for the war gear, which is, you know, level 1 play. He could just equip the weapon and maybe do something a little bit different here. Waggle pick down the 1/3, maybe trade, and then push or push damage. He still has Ziliak, still has Van Cleef with Shadow Step. He has Shark. Like, there's still options, and Surrender does. You don't just have to just slam war gear every time because you can, especially with options like this. Surrender has gone for it, and I think what What's pushed it over the edge is it removes all of Flurry's armor. It's just, you had 9 armor, that's just a lot. And in one swing, I can remove it and force you to have some kind of answer as well.
Yeah, I like the consideration there because, you know, if a big Edwin had come down there, that means there's 2 threatening minions in play. So if the entire turn from Flurry was, you know, getting armor, killing off the Edwin, the 4/4 is still in play, which can be magnetized onto. However, I fully agree with your point that overall, saving the Edwin for follow-up afterwards, even with Spirit of the Shark, and just going for this now is strong. Especially as there's only 1 execute in the deck. There's next to no answers to this. It's exactly Ironbeak Owl or Brawl. And Brawl's only a 50% answer, and Owl doesn't even kill it off completely.
Oh, all I see is Weapon with an Inner Rage here as well.
Yeah.
Get to swing for
I know,
9
yeah,
again.
no, it's good, it's good, it's good. I wanted to, I wanted to see that Edwin and the Inner Rage come down on the same turn, but that's perhaps a little optimistic. Can you ever go? Oh, could he go Ziliak's self Inner Rage attack just so that it gains 1 less set of armor? Is that ever worth it? Probably not. Probably not. That's pretty bad.
Over having
That's
a weapon
very bad.
equipped too.
Yeah. However, the fear with Wagglepick is weapons project, right? And that is a huge punish.
Yeah.
Because obviously only a Coppertail Imposter is returned to hand, which actually gives some level of credence to the play I was thinking of Ziliak's Inner Rage.
Okay, well, my next question then. Oh, he's going to
Is
go
he doing
for
it?
My next question was, if your opponent does that, is it that bad? You can replay the Coppertail
It's
and you
bad.
have Ziliax? Like,
I think it's very bad. If he imagine if he plays Harrison, he's ahead on board, you bounce back your best thing. I honestly, because of 2 weapons project and Harrison, I think this seems like a terrible play from Surrender. I think it's a good play.
Defend the gates.
Because even in this answer where there is the punish, I'm doing air quotation there, of Militia Commander, Flurry has nothing on board. Surrender has the initiative. Not exactly sure what he does that with that initiative now, but he's got it.
Yeah. But he's got it. I can't hold all of this initiative. I mean, is just Shark Cleave just a thing? I don't know.
It is a thing. It's not a very good thing.
Maybe he can just Wagglepick now?
Wagglepick Edwin swing face, that sucks.
What about just Wagglepick swing
Edwin step
face?
Edwin.
What about Wagglepick swing face?
Just Wagglepick swing face.
Yeah, then you can Edwin, next turn, Edwin, swing,
Is it ever
Shark, Edwin.
Is it ever just Shark? He hasn't seen a Dynamatic yet, right?
I don't know what just Shark really does.
Choose soon.
It's something to do. I think Wagglepick swing is fine.
I have no idea what you should do on this turn.
I think Dagger Wagglepick swing. Just to put it out there. Manual utilization. Oh, Surrender indecisive here, if I can get my words out.
The Brotherhood shall
This was a tough turn.
Yeah.
This was a real tough turn. But I guess the benefit of this play is if the weapon destruction comes down, the Edwin bounces back. Fantastic. You can make a huge Edwin then with Spirit of the Shark next turn. If the Edwin is just cleared off and the weapon destruction doesn't come down, you've managed to get a Wagglepick to stick, which means you can swing face next turn.
And you can bounce a Shark, worst case, which makes one of the
That's
Sharks
fair.
really cheap.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. The worst case scenario, I guess, is Dynamatic weapons project where the Edwin is killed and the Edwin is dealt with. Maybe Flurry should go for Militia Commander instead. Wow, in the end though he comes to the conclusion that he doesn't mind leaving the Edwin.
Yeah, this might be too much for Surrender, honestly. 3 cards.
Yeah.
insane.
I guess I'm employing casting where I can see that for Surrender here, Edwin is by far the best card he could have in his hand right now.
Double Shadow Step.
Yes. This is a pretty easy play now, I think.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Brotherhood is going to continue to prevail.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Oh my god. This is like in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the guy's like really far away, and then all of a sudden you turn and look back and he just stabs you in the face.
Well, that is a big boy.
That's a very large gentleman. And the only answer is brawl. Does it really come down to this?
I think he could just boom, right?
And tank 22?
Yes.
How dare you?
But then he...
That's 22
Well, what if you
damage.
lue the brawl? You just die.
Yes, but if you tank 22 damage, you're losing anyway. This is the
No.
play. Surrender knows what's up. He can hardly look. Bless RNG here, says Surrender.
Flurry even won the Harrison. What a god.
Yeah, pretty much the worst possible outcome. I suppose this can be killed off by the Waggle pick, but basically any result that was not Edwin surviving
Was the worst possible outcome.
Exactly.
Surrender at least can make some...
This is, yeah,
Get
this
some
is
value
not
cooking.
nothing. This is very much not nothing now. Especially if you can find Ethereal Lackey. Okay, now we're talking.
Oh! Okay.
Now we're very much talking.
Let's talk muchly.
It's never pickpocket, right?
I mean...
It's got to be Myra's.
It could be. Does Surrender realistically win if he draws his deck? When Flurry has this many resources? I
Probably
don't
not,
know.
actually.
Yeah.
Unless,
Maybe it is.
Unless he hits, like, Togwaggle Scheme off of another option, because he has another spell to discover, of course. Maybe pickpocket is just the best
Yeah.
option. Like, if he gets Dr. Boom, it's not that bad.
Going for the Myras.
Oh! What? Whoa!
Bear in mind, though,
This is
this
insane.
does not guarantee he gets Tog.
It's not guaranteed that he gets Tog, but I mean, just shuffling anything is fine. Literally
Well,
just to give him
Well,
more
most
turns.
importantly, he doesn't even have to do it next turn.
Right, exactly.
Because he needs
Yes,
the Tog
yeah.
scheme to queue up more.
To juice up.
Yeah. Juice up. Surrender's camera cannot contain the excitement in this game. Oh, but he's recovered.
He's calmed down.
So, actually, the admin's Surrender, can you just calm down? We've actually
that, mate.
had to take you off camera for
It's
this.
just a game of Hearthstone. Come on. It's not like this decides that you could finish top of your bracket.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Oh wait, I'm an idiot. Says imaginary admin. So with both of the sharks gone, this is obviously as good as a burglar, good of a burglar as Surrender's going to find.
So many options.
And it seems reasonable here, right?
Can even evolve it into a
Yeah.
probably better statted 5-drop. The dagger swing takes care of Harrison every single time. So Surrender can, you know, put 1 foot forward onto this board here. Coil?
Upgrade?
Coil?
Mine?
Not... Fine. I mean, draw a card.
Yeah.
Draw a card instead of take 5.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
Seems good.
Yeah. Upgrade's so good with Waggle Pick though. It's so nuts. But yeah, okay, I agree. This is better. Does now present Flurry obviously with yet more options in terms of board clear. Dynamatic Militia Commander, 5 Warpaths. Just ignore it and play Dr. Boom. Lots of valid
I think I
options.
like the Dr. Boom play.
Yeah. Because a lot of the time you can clear off the board, right? Kaboom allows you to clear off one of them. The 1/1s allows
1/1s.
you to clear off Zap. Armor's fantastic.
Yeah, I think Dr. Boom is very good this turn. I don't like not playing Dr. Boom whenever I can get away with it.
I guess the decision here that Flurry has to make is, next turn, is the board more likely or less likely to be... Is it likely to be bigger or smaller than this, I suppose is the way to answer it.
True.
And given that he knows that there's a Lackey, 2 spells, and 2 mystery cards from the deck in his hand, I think it's actually reasonable to assume next turn it's going to be less scary.
Surrender's looking for.
He's looking for a Lackey, which he's found.
Did
in
he
the
not
case
get
of
it?
the Rat.
He got Tog.
He's looking for Togwaggle.
Even got
which he's
Ken.
found.
Unlimited cans.
Cards.
Oh my god, this gets crazy.
Can we have audio comms, please, for Surrender right now? It's just like, oh, yes.
Yeah, that transcends language at that
Oh,
point.
100%.
Oh. Tog stuff.
Toggers.
Toggers, exactly.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, I guess weapon
Yeah, it
destruction is
destroys
probably
it.
I never like seeing the delivery drones passed over, but negating damage is super importante for Flurry.
Didn't you used to be a delivery of drone of sorts yourself, Derek?
I did used to be a food deliverer on my bicycle. It means that I I had like very swole legs and the weakest upper body you can possibly imagine.
So it's like it's the opposite of when I was a don't skip leg day.
Literally, my life was one big leg day.
Here we go, Tog.
I was like Wallace and Gromit with the wrong trousers, like walking around. I could kick through a steel door, but couldn't open a pickle jar.
I just can't do either of those things, so you had one up on me. Choice here for Surrender. I don't think the Goblet's going to do too much unless...
Oh, he never picks
Well-
Kobold, does he?
Why? He can scheme and then
Choose soon.
Goblet, right?
Scheme into Goblet.
Yeah.
Shush. Stop.
What?
You have been stopped.
What? Jeez.
I mean, you'd have to dump so many cards before that's
Yeah,
even
eventually. You could do it.
good. Oh, Kobold's always bad. Like, Goblet has its place. Kobold is just, like, never good, surely.
One thing to remember here is, although it might seem that just 4 shuffles is not a lot, if you do many more, if you're shuffling Tog,
All the
well,
difference
you
in
run
the
out of
world.
lackeys as well, right? There's no point you shuffling 10 Togs in. You just get 6 mana 5/5s. You may as well do Cairns if that's your plan,
Yeah.
right? So although it looks like, oh, why isn't your scheme like 10 of something in?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really matter. The scheme is, as long as it's equal to the lackeys you can guarantee, then it's fine.
I love that Togs have become the measurement for both quality of duvet and also how good a Hearthstone deck is when Togwaggles have been shuffled in.
Do you know where that even comes from?
I have no idea.
What's a
where it
Tog?
comes from. I don't know what a Tog is. I know that I have a high Tog duvet though at home.
Oh, really?
Don't want to brag. I do. Pretty underwhelming there, all things considered. I mean, it's not one of the legendary dragons, right? Which is pretty much always what you're looking for. Or Gruul. I mean, he's seen both warpaths at this point, right? So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Hook Tusk.
Really? One's just going to get zapped,
I guess that.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough.
If the zap was a hero power that couldn't kill it, then yeah, why not? But it's only 1 damage difference for 2 health. Like, that's solid.
Probably just about there. No Shadow Step ability, unfortunately, because stepping a Mojo Master would honestly not be that bad.
Evolve not too shabby, though. There's still so much value for Surrender.
He's got to worry about the lackeys, though, right? Every lackey is
Yeah.
very valuable.
You're right.
He's got to dump a card, though, right? Or is he at 9 cards? 9 cards, yeah, okay, that's right. He doesn't have to.
I think he wants to put pressure on, though.
Yes,
I think you just dump it all in because Flurry doesn't have
Sorry.
many cards, so I think you go as
will.
wide as
He
possible.
doesn't have to, so yeah, just something to consider.
Although Omega Assembly, Brawl, Hero Powers, start to look okay for Flurry. That's a good one.
I feel like Surrender's face is so completely incongruous with what's happening. Like, when he sees Omega Assembly, he's like, yeah, great, brilliant, generate more value.
It's because he's known it's been played now. He can forget about it for the rest of the game.
I guess.
Okay, then.
Glass half full, Derek. Glass half full.
When your opponent plays Dr. Boom, wow, thank God they can't play Dr. Boom from here on in.
I mean, I would also be worried if they played Dr. Who and then there's a chance they could play it again. That would strike fear into me. See, this is why we need 60-second Hearthstone.
Oh. I mean, to be fair to Flurry, this is not an easy turn. Can he tank the damage by not brawling? He kind of has to, right? If he brawls here, he knows 100% there's 3 more Togwaggles in the deck.
I mean,
2 more lackeys in hand. He will face more crowns.
He's removing 5 damage from the board, which seems fine to me. Well, 6 now with the swing, of course. But he has 18 armor, never mind health.
Again, I have to remember that Flurry can see which options are being chosen off the Togwaggle because the treasures, I believe, if the information I've been fed is correct, that all the treasures are always in the same order, even though they're face down.
Like a bad magic trick, wouldn't it? Imagine if someone just came up to you and went, I bet I can guess which treasure he's picked. It's just how do you do that? They're in the same order.
Magic.
Oh.
Magician never reveals his secrets.
Because they're always dumb.
Because they're trash.
Well, okay, nice,
there we
nice.
go. We're talking about it. Did he say, I'm good? If you summon him like that, does he say, did he say, who's that handsome devil? Because he says that when the opponent is Dr. Boom Mad Genius, right? Did he say that? Or did he say, let's blow this place sky high?
Don't know.
Couldn't actually hear.
Check the bod. Sorry, I'll be
I
quiet
mean, that's,
next
that's
time.
by far the least interesting thing that's happening in this situation.
The little bait there from Surrender.
Whoa!
He went for the crown, but got the wolf instead.
You're the Boom
fox.
Reaver as well. That just summons a 5/5, which is pretty good. You'd have to do it next turn, though, of course, for it to gain its effect, which slows him down, because it's not the most powerful turn he can make.
Get ready for Caster Bingo. Get those Caster Bingo cards ready.
What? Oh, no. Mechathoon does not win the game here. You would pick Mechathoon as a 10-10 rush. And I think that's probably the worst option by quite a margin.
Kaboombot doesn't seem too bad, to be
That's
honest.
what I'm thinking. Kaboombot's just a decent amount of removal. Eternian Rover is armor, of course, but I'm not sure that's really Flurry's biggest concern right now. But at the same time, he doesn't know Surrender's hand. For all he knows, it's Leroy in there, it's Life Drinkers in there, rather than a very board-centric hand.
Oh, I love that music.
He's going to have to pick quick, however. With the magnetization, the way this works out, I like it.
Kind of ticks both the boxes, doesn't it? Armor and removal.
Almost out of
And it
cards.
saves the brawl, which I agree is probably crucial there.
All this armor's gonna go away now, though, which is a reasonably big deal.
Yes, I would say that is a reasonably large deal. So for Surrender, if he wants, to get value off of the Battle Cry of Boom Reaver, has to be played this turn. It's not a bad play this turn at all. How does it work out though, right? If he summons the copy of Togwaggle, rushes it in and tanks the 5 with the hero power, is that ever good?
I think tanking 5's too much.
Probably.
Let's go! Face. All face. Let Flurry decide. Yeah. No, all face. Boo. I love the Nozdormu play of like, Nozdormu, face. Pass. You deal with it, not me. I'd also love if you have 2 Nozdormus, it stacks. So then the turn gets even like faster.
15 seconds off of 15 seconds?
No, like, it would just
A
like
quarter of a
half
quarter,
it down
yeah.
again. Yeah.
The brawl there happened to come down. I've got to be honest, I'm surprised we didn't see the owl come down first. But it's going to work out okay for Flurry. And I guess he
Perfect, actually. That's
Yeah,
pretty simple.
This was a very expected outcome. And if the Cairn survived, it could have then gone Owl into hero power. So I guess this actually always worked out. It's just whether or not there'll be a use for the Owl, where there will always be a use for the shield and slap. Alright, let's go again.
And this is a slight problem here is those Togs are now just 6 mana 5/5s.
Oh. Oh my god, that's so bad! What?
Yeah, 4 mana 5/6.
Oh yeah, of course, with stealth.
Yeah.
However, if
Owl.
you read the text,
Yeah.
you realize after your opponent plays a minion, become a copy of it. I think this was the lowest win rate legendary. Like HS Replay released some data. It was either the lowest win rate or the lowest play rate legendary of Dr. Boom's of that expansion. For a reason, it's garbage. Is it more garbage than a 5 mana 4/2? However, like it forces
Discover a
Flurry-
Death Rattle though.
Choose Suri.
Oh no, it's summons. What am I
It's a-
talking
it's a
about? Yeah,
battle.
you can't
Yeah.
bounce it. Yeah, no, you're right. Oof.
Wow.
You could have had 2 owls. Imagine if that happened.
I mean, 3 mana summon 2 4/2s is like almost on the level of being playable. Like, obviously that's too strong, but it's not broken as it should be. And now for Surrender,
Honestly,
no lackeys.
did he need to pick the Kobold last turn?
Instead of the crown, I think he's like, imagine if he got
Oh,
Deathwing there. That surely has to be a
Right,
more
but
likely
there's-
avenue to victory. He's just dying from fatigue. Like playing out a legendary each turn is not that good.
Right, but he also gets a 3 mana minion on the board that
That's
turn,
fair.
which is a taunt and has good stats. And otherwise, he's playing us outside of getting exactly Deathwing. He's getting 6 mana 5/5s in his hand or a 10 mana 7/9. Right,
Yeah.
those cards in his hand were never going to be good enough to win the game. So the choice is between what the Kobold gets you, along with having a good taunt on the board, versus one roll of the dice at Discover. I think he might should have gone Kobold on that one.
I mean,
even
I'm
though I
still-
know it's not the go-to.
Right, and I'm still wondering if we could have seen the Boom Reaver come down a turn earlier, because it wasn't perfect, but it adds an extra threat to his hand.
Yeah.
Whereas I fully understand that he doesn't have all the time to play all the threats in his hand. He has to prioritize, and Surrender prioritized playing a
Treasure.
treasure
basically, every
that turn over the Boom Reaver. I'm not certain if I agree there though, because I think he would have had one more turn to play threats if he had any more threats in his
Right.
hand. He didn't in the end, because it was just too. It was just the unactivated High Sparrow and Togwaggles. So a very close one there at the end. But for Surrender, 2 very, very different game plans in game
It
1 and
was.
2. The all-out damage with Headcracked game 1. The all-out value with Togwaggle and Togwaggle Scheme game 2. Neither unable to overcome the ridiculous removal and control potential of Flurry's Warrior.
Yeah, there was still Elysiana to go as well if Flurry really wanted to extend the game even longer. But Flurry takes the win, I believe. That puts Surrender firmly in 2nd place.
It's locked now. Yep,
Yep,
our
and
Division A is locked.
Alutimu
Alutemu
is
first, the winner of Division A. Congratulations. Surrender, number 2. Staz, number 3.
Okay, well, that's just match number 2 of the day. We've got plenty more coming up, and these start to get spicy now, so we'll give you a minute to get ready. We'll be right back with some more Hearthstone.